We're taking 140,000 calls a week, which is 20,000 a day.
140,000.
I like playing games that take me a long time to pass, because most games I pass in a couple days.
He was an original speedrunner. Yo, this is news clip 1991 NES footage with NWC champ Robin Mihara, Nintendo game counselors. I wasn't even alive then. I was just about to, you know, this was a year too early for me.
Glad to have Sharon. Oh, it's wonderful to be out
Yeah, like Nintendo Power or here in the Netherlands, Power Unlimited. Yeah, how's it going, Horn?
Show by talking about video games. We probably all remember Pong. That was probably the first video game that you could play at home.
Yeah.
We have come a long way in the last 15 years since that game came out. Now
I'll
there
open
are
up this
high-tech
Kotaku link that you
graphics
have here
and greater
too.
challenges for the video game aficionado.
Oh, it's the Battle Royale one.
I'm a big fan. To say the least.
I got a chance to go up to Redmond, Washington, where Nintendo of America is headquartered. And that's one company that's out.
I love the static buzzing noise in the background here. Going fine, grabbing a coffee, so be back later. No worries.
To prove that video games aren't just for kids anymore.
Nintendo gameplay. This is Jenny. How may I help you?
Oh my god.
You've only been through the first cement pit.
This is a thing.
Fortress is kind of a magical maze.
This is a thing.
Right under the wet paint sign?
Well, you're gonna come across this big sea serpent.
Okay, so you're gonna spawn this rectangular block, right? And then you might get like a straight line, right? What you want to do is match up all your pieces in a congruent fashion so you could eliminate your line.
You'll get to a place where there's this big skull head guy.
You had to talk to one of these nerds for help? Oh my gosh.
If you're one of America's...
This seems like it would be an interesting job though. Like, just you know, I always think about how technology has progressed. Gaming, not just gaming, but technology in general. But being like kind of on the forefront of this. I know this isn't like the forefront, but like, you know, this is evolution happening here. This is where people would get their game guides.
65 million Mario-loving maniacs. You know the lingo. If not, you may be asking yourself, what are they talking about? They're talking strategy. They're talking warp zones.
State-of-the-art circa 1991.
Nintendo, a video game phenomenon that's still going strong 6 years later.
It's just like a culture. You know, again, Nintendo revitalized the video game industry, and once that started, it was...
I remember playing like Mario on my Game Boy and things like that. I played Tetris a lot on my Game Boy too. Like, I'd be on the pooper and I'd be playing Tetris. Those were great times. I was never good at Mario though. I was never good. I had this thing. If I was one of those Nintendo game counselors, I would be like, get good. But just imagine how far gameplay Toxic Lily. Imagine how far gameplay has evolved. I remember on Game Boy, I don't know what it was. I had this cartridge that had like, I'm throwing an arbitrary number, like 30 different games on it, which would include like, I don't know if it was like a legal thing. Maybe it was, but it would have like Tetris and Mario and all sorts of games on it. And you could go through and pick games. I remember playing that a lot.
It was like a snowball effect. There was just no stopping it.
Oh, Dr. Mario! I played this one. I played this before.
Nintendo-ites, the calm, cool, collected type.
Dr. Mario Tetris.
Don't you just love the music?
But I never had this system. I never had that system.
And the out-of-control, impatient, get-the-straight-jacket-ready, stubborn manic type. Like yours truly. No! What is it about these games that reduce men, women, children, even this intelligent good evening reporter to guttural
I mean, my
noise
dad would tell me about this, and like, because I used to play like Pong and games like that with my dad, and yeah, just think about it. When like something like Pong came out, there's Pong, right, where you have the two sides and then the ball's going back and forth between both sides. There was also this other game where you just controlled a platform at the bottom and there were blocks at the top and there was a ball and you would have to get the ball to bounce up and down to break the blocks. I forget what that's called, but I played that one a lot too. That TV weighed like 200 pounds. Yeah, here's the thing though, like, imagine back in the day when that shit came out, people were probably like, holy shit, this is crazy, right? Breakout / Arachnid? Breakout old game. Oh, is that? Oh, yo. Yeah, it was something like this. It was totally something like this that I played. Yeah, it was essentially something like this, for sure, 100%. Yeah. And then it would get faster. The ball would move faster at times, or as you continued on. What was the other one? Arachnid. Those TVs were called refrigerators for a reason. Yeah, I remember having big ass TV, like the thickness of those arachnoid, the thickness of those TVs, and my dad had like a Mac. But the thickness of that thing was like now like the monitor I have, we have flat screen TVs. Like this monitor is like, I don't know, 2 inches like thick. But back then, woo, they were hefty boys, huh? You still own one? Yeah, I never played this one. I don't think I played this one. Maybe, cause dude, yeah, no, this brings back so many memories. Cause I remember I would try to get the ball up here at the top, right? So it would just keep bouncing, right? That was the ultimate power move, right? You get the ball continuously bouncing up there. Oh, this looks so familiar. I feel like I remember collecting like those pills or whatever. Nothing like needing a friend to move a 30-inch TV. Yeah, and then you had those cables. I forget what they're called, but like one was red, one was white, and one was yellow. Does that sound familiar too? That's what I had to deal with, I remember. You had to plug the cables in, and sometimes you had to like wiggle them around and everything. RGB cables. Yeah. Whoa, that's so crazy. I still have one of those TVs. It's a 55-inch big back ones that has a bottom stand for the VCR DVD player. Oh, that one has a DVD player? Dang, that's an advanced one, huh?
Babbling incoherently and carrying on conversations with absolutely
you remember moving all of those? Yeah.
For hours on end. Give me something that I can use.
It's fun. Some of the games are just really mentally challenging. The name of the games is The Games.
As if 400 games aren't enough to keep Nintendo on the top of the heap, there's a monthly magazine.
Yo, Nintendo Power, baby! Yo, Nintendo Power. I remember looking through those. Last CRT television you left it in the apartment when you moved because it was too heavy to bother. Sometime in elementary school, right? I had a Nintendo 64, and my friend got me into Ocarina of Time. And my only source of information at that time for trying to get better at the game, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, was meeting up with my friend at school to ask him about things. And I remember one day he was like, hey, let me bring a guide. And the guide ended up just being this Nintendo Power thing where, again, it showcases a lot of different games. And, you know, Ocarina of Time or whatever might have had a couple pages to it, but I remember reading those and being like, oh, yeah. Learning more about it.
A Game Boy you can play anywhere. Game Boy. And a telephone hotline that started
I think I had that Game Boy. Like that one with like the non-colorful one. That's the original Game Boy, right? Right?
With 4 game counselors back in 1986. Today, 200 game counselors based in Redmond, Washington, field questions from players all.
Your mom used to make her own guides in Spiral Notebooks. She'd make level maps for Mario and shit, super detailed. Yep, that's the OG. Yeah, I think I definitely had that one. I eventually got like a colored one, like a purple one. I guess that was the Game Boy Color, right? Is that what that was called? The Game Boy Color? Just thinking back to these days when I was playing, right? And not having sources of information. My dad and I, these were such good times. I will always remember, oh man, I'm getting sentimental. I will always remember the times I played, or I spent playing on my N64 with my dad. Because we would play this game called Sarge's Heroes on the N64, and we didn't have guides or anything. What we would do is, you know, we'd play together and we'd try to get through the missions. Yeah, Armament Sarge's Heroes. You got a pretty old PC. You need to see if you can complete it again. Oh, yeah. I bet people go back and rebuild and like for retro types of games and everything. I would probably school this game now, maybe. But back in the day, you know, my dad and I, we'd play. We'd probably get stuck on a mission, trying to figure out where to go, the optimal way to do it. And then I would go to school, and then my dad would pick me up and take me home. And on the car ride back home, he'd be like, hey, I found this new thing to do on that level that we're stuck on. And we'd go implement it. Like, he's like, yeah, we got to go behind the sandbox this time. And if you sneak right here behind this leaf, you can snipe one of the tan soldiers or something, right? And that's how we progress through the game, little by little, slowly finding little niches and ways to progress. And it was such a good time. It was such a good time. We love Sarge's Armament. Yeah, you got a Commodore C64. Ooh, look at that. See, I'm not like super familiar with systems and whatnot that came before the N64, because the N64 was, aside the Mac or, you know, computer, N64 was my first like system when I was a kid. All right, let's go.
All
Let's
over
finish
the
this. Actually, it's
United
interesting.
States, Europe, and Canada.
And we're taking 140,000 calls a week, which is 20,000 a day, if that means anything. It's incredible. Players calling for
Wait, how many calls a week?
which is 20,000 a day.
20,000 a
All
day?
over the United States, Europe, and Canada.
And we're taking 140,000 calls a week, which is 20,000 a day,
140,000.
if that means anything. It's incredible. Players calling for a variety of reasons. Number one, and probably the most popular, is how do I get through this game? How do I defeat Ganon in The Legend of Zelda? How do I drive my
Ganon in The
car?
Legend
How
of
do I make pit
Zelda.
stops? It could be just about anything. They're also calling to tell us what
This was your old TV back in the day. Look at that thing, hefty. Yeah. And I remember having like a stand like this of some sort too. It's a big ass stand to hold the big ass TV. And those weren't free calls, by the way. These guys also were playing games 8 hours a day. Yeah, I wonder like the livelihood. Like, could they live off this, or was this just like, you know, part-time college kid type of job? Because they look very young, right? How much does the call again? Like $3 a minute, something like that, in 1991. I mean, if we're talking back to those days, yeah, like landline, but like, you know, back in the day, we had phones that had cords to it that would have to connect. Right now, we have you know, all our mobile phones and everything. But I remember having those.
or to and more importantly,
$12 a
probably
minute
give us
now.
tips.
And once you stop, it'll sprint bounce up again. Then you can go underneath that one. Yep.
The counselors aren't necessarily Nintendo know-it-alls, but with 4 weeks training and all the answers right at their fingertips, they're ready to handle the phones.
Well, first course, you can only go to the right. Correct?
These game counselors have something that any game-playing fan would give his NES advantage for. A job where it pays to play video games all day long.
This is so interesting.
Check out Nintendo's newest offering, the Super Famicom system with 3D graphics. The only hitch, the new system isn't compatible with the old. But that doesn't seem to bother the game counselors. They're already playing the new games.
It's just a great place. Would you like a job? I need a new assistant.
That seems like a fun job to have for a little bit, huh?
Some people will say anything to get a crack at playing the
That
new
90s
games
mullet,
on the
yeah.
new system. But as long as there are new games to play, old games to master, a princess to...
Well, I was thinking about that. Imagine if there was one of those counselors that didn't know the answer, they called another counselor to help. Or like in real time, right? Like if, you know, maybe they're masters of the game and they can remember a lot, but like, you know, that's why they have the system, right? It's like, oh, you're stuck here? Like, wait, let me get to that part of the game too. Okay, now I'm at that part of the game. Now I can guide you through with more accurate detail.
rescue, a world to save, the video game craze will be more than a fad. It will be an adventure.
The Final Fantasy series started back then?
That new
When did the
Famicom
first one
system
come
will
out?
cost you about $200, but it won't be out until August or September. And you're not going to believe this. My mother, that new Famicom system will cost you about $200.
$200 back then? That sounds very expensive. I think I saw a video. It might have been a Donkey video where they were looking at the prices of games back then and consoles back then and how it compares now. And if you were to extrapolate the prices of some of the prices back then to now, like they would be very, very expensive, right? That was I think that was the gist of the video. Games are cheaper now than they have ever been. Lily's guide is get good. I'm going to escalate your call to a tier 1 specialist to help you figure out how to get the Ninja Turtle through the damn level. One moment, please. Yeah. Oh, 1987 was when Final... Yeah, okay.
But it won't be out until August or September. And you're not going to believe this. My mother, she's already put in a bid for what she wants for Christmas. Guess what she wants?
100 plus adjusted for inflation for SNES
like
games.
mother, like daughter, runs in the genes.
Wow.
It does. You're pretty intense at those games.
Wow.
You think I'm very sure. Well, you know, I like a good game.
Cutting edge tech, right?
So I caught up with a kid who is not only intense, but he is a champion. His name is Robin Mihara.
He's a
Robin
champion.
is a video game pro. He's been matching his wits against various video foes for 5 years and has a world championship trophy to
Whoa.
show for his Nintendo game playing expertise.
Yo, man. This guy, he he grew up in the wrong era, man. I don't know what he's up to now, but he could have taken this to a whole new level if streaming and all that kind of stuff was around.
I'm good at them, and I like to play them, and I like playing games that take me a long time to pass, because most games I pass in a couple days.
He was an original speedrunner.
He doesn't sit here for hours on end and watch the world go by, but when he is in the mood for Mario or one of his other favorite games, he gets down to some serious game playing.
It takes a lot of hand-eye coordination. I'm better under pressure.
Robin got the chance
The
to
OG
play under
Speedrunner,
pressure
baby.
in world competition after a disappointing failed attempt right here in Portland.
I lost here because I wasn't very good, and then I practiced over the summer. Then me and my mom went to Oakland, where I won that trophy. And and I won there, and then they gave us tickets to go to LA in December. And I placed third.
That's
Wow.
right. You're looking at the world's third
That
best
kid is like 50
Nintendo
today.
player in the 12 to 17-year-old category.
Damn.
Our resident video wizard says the formula for success
Time,
is simple.
man.
It takes the calm, cool, collected approach and lots of concentration.
So I've learned today that there are basically two styles of play. There's your style, which is very vocal and very physical, and then his style of play, which he is so quiet.
Yeah, but don't let his quiet exterior fool you. This is one guy who lets his fingers do the talking.
Whoa. Whoa. How about that, huh? Yo, that was crazy, huh? I dare you to play 14 using that 2-button controller. There's probably someone who's done like one of those challenges before, right? Like, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna play Dark Souls on a banana or something. Someone's probably done that for Final Fantasy 14, right? There's the link. That was interesting. Holy smokes. Wow, a blast back into the past, man. Look, I joke about it all the time, how, you know, I say like, oh, I'm getting old, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I'm joking 95% of the times, but there are times where I'm like, I do often reflect heavily on the past. And not just like my own personal life, but just like, man, like time is flying by and look at how crazy things are these days. Like technology and everything, it's very trippy for me to think about sometimes. Like I don't have like existential crises or anything, but like, you know, I do reflect sometimes and I think about it.